Hey everyone, and welcome to the first ever post to the Duality of Wrestling channel. My name is Christian, formerly of The Wrestling View. Thanks for checking out my channel. So we're going to be primarily focusing on AEW content here. We'll occasionally cross over when circumstances or situations merit, but mostly we're going to primarily focus on AEW stuff here. And to start things off, I figured I'd explain a little bit of why I chose the name Duality of Wrestling. It's not exactly something that flows off the tongue very easily, if you will. But when I was co-hosting the Wrestling View with my then colleague Jer Lynch from Ireland, we both kind of hitched our wagon to the best way to analyze wrestling as a whole, as a medium, is looking at it through two separate but simultaneously important lenses. The first is obviously the in-ring match quality. Obviously, this is an area where AEW has always excelled. It's what they kind of hung their hat on for a long time, so it's never something that's typically lacking within the company. But when you're analyzing wrestling in general, obviously that's a great place to start. How is the wrestling in the wrestling company? Is it entertaining? Is it engaging? Is it fun? Does it have elements that you personally enjoy and can latch on to as a fan that will make you a repeat viewer? So obviously, the in-ring wrestling quality itself is of a primary importance. But as I've always thought, equally important is the storytelling behind it and the narrative that links all of these in-ring elements together to make a cohesive story that can make you as the fan suspend your disbelief and lose yourself in the enjoyment that we all had as kids if we followed wrestling, and lose yourself and emotionally invest better in the story that's being told. So we've seen, examples of either of these things working while the other one does not. We've seen matches that were great, but the story that surrounded it didn't really exist very well. Some of the elements of the Continental Classic come to mind. Obviously, the story there is just the Continental Classic itself. The in-ring quality is almost always exceptional, but there's not a lot really linking these together outside of the tournament itself. On the other side of that coin, we've seen many matches that have great stories that really, really engage us, but that for one reason or other just fail to deliver. And maybe unfairly, I'm going to point to something like, the Jimmy and Jey Uso WrestleMania match we had a few years ago, brother versus brother. The story was very interesting. The video package was good, but it was just a kind of a lot of spamming of super kicks that didn't really do a lot for most people who watched it. So these are elements you need to have that work together. You need the storytelling and narrative to make your fan invest emotionally, and obviously you need a superior in-ring product that keeps people engaged and keeps them coming back and keeps them being diversified on a match-by-match basis. So that is where I came up with the term the duality of wrestling, and that's what I've named the channel after, because I feel like that's the best way to look at wrestling as an art form. Now, with that sort of preamble out of the way, in the coming days, weeks, and months, I'm going to be reviewing AEW content. I'm going to be previewing AEW content. Next up on my personal docket, I'm going to take a look at both brackets of this year's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. And then we'll be doing a preview of the upcoming Double or Nothing pay-per-view that is just a few days away. But before I did any of those things, I wanted to give you a brief overview of the channel, of how I looked at wrestling, and what you might be in for as a fan of AEW who's considering getting into this content. So I thank you for watching. Please stay with me. Subscribe if you feel so inclined. Love to have you aboard for the entirety of the ride. We got off to a great start at the Wrestling View, and I would love to carry that momentum forward with the duality of wrestling. Again, my name is Christian. Thanks so much for watching. See you on the next one.